And hello and welcome back to Radio Toni Every Day Business. And this is my show with Christine Stow. And before I introduce you to Christine yet again, I just want to remind you, if you're listening in live on Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube, I have my amazing VA Paleos standing by to answer all your questions and direct you to where you need to go to get information. If you can't find it there, then jump on to radiotoni.com, where you'll find all the information about Christine and where to connect with her and how to contact her if you're interested in any of her programs or online courses. Now, beautiful Christine, we've been having a lovely chat before we got on the show this morning. I said, thankfully, I'm a little bit early. Normally, I'm racing around, but we're both on early and it was wonderful. So Christine, just to remind listeners, she's a speaker, author, and community consultant. When she found out that there was something wrong with her baby daughter at 3 months of age, she had to reinvent herself. Said baby daughter is now 20, still living at home, but well cared for and looked after by plenty of people around Christine. Since that time, she managed to get elected to the local council. So they're like the equivalent of counties if you're listening in the US this evening. She's written a story, completed an MBA, established support programs, and a special school, all whilst managing her beautiful daughter Imogen and her older daughter through everything that life throws at her. She's gone from lab tech to sales consultant to carer to counsellor. And now she speaks to women all over the planet, helping them find their passion, uncover their purpose, and turn it into business gold. And she's really good at it. So Christine likes to say that life is all about choices, and you make a choice each and every day. And her choice was to get up, show up, and look after Imogen and make Imogen's world and hers as happy as they possibly could be. Welcome back to the show, Christine.
Thank you. I'm having so much fun. I think I'm going to cry next week when it's the end of it.
Oh, no. I have to say, listeners, there's people that I interview and work with who have wonderful businesses and are very serious. But with Christine, it's such a joy. She emanates everything that she talks about, and she truly is passionate about empowering women to do what they were meant to do, to find their purpose and to get that clarity. And so we're just going to quickly recap. Um, we've talked about finding out that there was something very wrong with her daughter Imogen when Imogen was only 3 months old. So as I said before, Imogen is now 20, but she still requires an immense amount of care, which has been assisted by Australia's NDIS program, which supplies support to the person with the disability in a way that helps them live their best life. So not only is Christine showing women how to live their best life, she's also helping Imogen live her best life. So along the way, there's been lots of lessons that Christine learned. So Christine, I want you to tell us today about some of those lessons you've learned along the way.
Yeah, so finding out there was something wrong with Imogen was a real slap in the face. Bottom fell out of my world. And for a while, it was a very dark time, suffered from
Yeah.
depression. And then, the light starts to show, you start to live life differently and find different ways to live life. You meet different people who I might have not otherwise met. So I don't know if your listeners have heard of the Welcome to Holland poem that a lady wrote about. When you have a child with disabilities, you think that you're going to be swanning around. It's like going on a journey overseas, and you think you're going to Venice, and you're going to land in Venice with the gondolas. It's all going to be lovely and beautiful Italians, and instead you land in Holland, and you go, oh my God, I didn't ask for Holland. This is not where I wanted to go. But then you start to see the tulips and the windmills and see how beautiful it is. So, and that's pretty much how it was. I met different people who I wouldn't have done otherwise. And I started to realize that Imogen had brought me different gifts, that I was on a corporate trajectory, flying all around the world, and then that stopped. I couldn't go back to that life, but I had a different life.
Yeah.
So then some people asked me to stand in the state election, and it was like, well, this must be what I'm meant to be. So I stood in the state election. It was at that time that I decided that I would do what I needed to do. I wouldn't get caught up in all the drudgeries. I'd just do what I needed to do to get what I needed to get, to figure out the support that I needed for Imogen, and just get that, rather than getting caught up in all the reasons I couldn't have it or all the things that were going to stand in my way, that I would just focus on that end point. And I also decided that at that time in 2006, or just after the election, that there's no point getting up glum, unhappy, that I was going to love everything that I could and be the best that I could at that stage. And it wasn't going to affect Imogen. If I was unhappy, it wasn't going to make her walk tomorrow, so I might as well be happy.
Yeah.
So I've
Yes.
carried that attitude since then. How can I make the best of what I have now without, and make the best and not be defined by Imogen's disability? So then time went on.
Yeah.
And my ex left in 2010. And then I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? But at that point in time, I thought, well, I've got skills and abilities. How can I use those? How can I use them to work around Imogen's care? So that's been my mission ever since, to work around Imogen's care. And how can I help other women do the same? How can I help them see their gifts and see the positive sides of things? So that's how I came to this. And then I realized, I got elected to local council, and after, I was on local council, I thought, what can I do that helps others? And I realized that I'd been 100% successful in applying for grants, and I looked at the steps that I'd taken, and now I've encapsulated those into the Grants Made Easy program, which I launched last week. So happy.
I know.
I got that launched,
awesome.
automated. And at the moment, until the 31st of January, it's only $7 to get the special report and the masterclass. So I think I sent you that link. So because
yes,
I want to help other people to get grants.
Absolutely. The links are up on radiotoni.com, or Christine, if they have trouble finding it on radiotoni.com, they can email you on christine@christinestow.com.au. But they are up on radiotoni.com under the co-host section, and look for Christine and you will find that information and the links to her course at the moment, which is an incredible special for our listeners, which includes a 45-minute planning session for them to set up and take their business further in 2021. Now, I want to come back and talk about getting into council. Was it a culture shock for you?
It was. I'd stood and didn't expect to get elected, and then I did through unexpected circumstances. And so I went through it in my mind and talked about it with the other councillors. What was this going to look like, and how was I going to do that? And I didn't have any idea. There was no NDIS.
Yes.
Didn't know how I was going to get support. And I just thought, I'm just going to do whatever it takes. I'm just going to use every bit of support that I can. And that's what I did. And when I started on council, it's 10 minutes down the road, and I have to be there at 6:30, and I would start
in the morning,
6:30 at night. But I would start getting ready.
Good.
I'd start getting ready at 3:00 when I first started, because I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But as time went on, I got kind of practiced at it. I got practiced at delegating. I got practiced at allowing other people to look after Imogen. And so by the time, after a year or two, like I'd be right, 10 to 6, I'm right. So it was a culture shock, but from the start, when I thought back, somebody rang me once at 4:00 and was asking me about disability stuff, and I'm going, no, talk to me now. Like, it was a culture shock. It's a matter of getting organised. It's a matter of delegating and deciding what things other people can do.
Christine, for those people that struggle with that whole concept of getting organized and delegating, have you got some tips for our listeners today that might help?
Practice, practice. So before I got elected to council, I'd get 3 hours care and I'd run out and do my shopping and run back. And I never left other people to give Imogen her feeds or her medications. So
Yeah.
I was in a way forced to allow other people to do it. But I also practiced. So I took little steps, if you like. So there was council.
Yes, yes.
But I also went away for the 48-hour weekend, to write my
Yes,
book.
to write your book.
And
Yeah.
that was the first time I'd left Imogen for a weekend. So if you like, that was a practice run where I was not at home with Imogen, but I was close
Yes.
enough that if something happened, I could
If
drive home. So
and
yeah,
something did happen though, didn't it?
yeah. So the first thing I'd say is take little steps and practice. Yeah, something did happen. So an hour and a half drive away, just got there, got relaxed. 2 hours into the weekend, and I got the call saying from the support worker, we can't get into the house. And I was like, I don't know what's
What?
going on. Like I put the keys in her bag and everything, and I couldn't work out. But fortunately, I'd hidden keys in the garden. They're not there anymore. Keys in the garden, keys with my mum and dad. And so here I am on the phone trying to guide the support worker to the garden where the keys were. And then my other daughter turned up and she said, oh,
Got
Aurelia's
keys?
here. Yeah, and she had keys. And I was so focused on Imogen and being away and getting that organised, I almost forgot that I had another daughter. So I think that
Yeah.
we need to think about the siblings. We need to, my philosophy with Aurelia has been do everything that I can to support her because Imogen's already a
Yes.
statistic, and we don't need
You need
Aurelia to be
another
a
one.
statistic. So I've done everything that I possibly can to support her to be the best that she can be. But yeah, so I was away for the weekend, but we got over that, and it turned out that the school hadn't sent home her bag. So the keys were left at
Oh,
school for the weekend. I've had all sorts of stories like that. Like another time, Imogen was sick at school, and it was Friday afternoon,
yes.
and they sent her off to they rang me and said she's sick. We think she's sick. They called me back in another hour and said she's so sick. We're sending her to the children's hospital. We think she's got a
Oh,
bloated stomach. Yeah, and I was like, great. So she's at the children's hospital. I was somewhere else, but at least I had the
yes.
presence of mind to think that I had to go to the school to get a wheelchair, because if I
Yes.
it's to the hospital without a wheelchair, just in the ambulance. But if I didn't have a wheelchair, I wouldn't be able to get her home because she has to travel
Yeah.
in the wheelchair. So I wouldn't be able to get her
Yes.
home, and then I wouldn't be able to get her to school on Monday, and then I'd be stuck at home and the wheelchair would be at
Yes.
school. So I had no idea how that was. So I knew I had to get the wheelchair. So I went and got the wheelchair, went to the children's hospital, and she's sitting up in bed
Yes.
like it's, all la-di-da, like it's a hoot. And she's got this, her stomach's big and extended. So I put in
Yes.
she's got a feed tube. So we were talking earlier
Yes.
about her peg. Put in the
About
feed tube,
mhm.
it went, all the air came out and she was fine. So that's a good thing, but she'd been, sent in an ambulance because she had a windy tummy.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But
So
at the end of it, she was all okay. So when we're talking about skills, being able to think in a moment of
stress.
emergency or stress, being able to let go and delegate and being organized. And so
Yeah.
for you with a daughter with disabilities, that organization includes all the things that go into Imogen's care, and
Yeah.
that's feeding and toileting and everything and medication and everything else. So you have to be organized. And do you think that because of Imogen's challenges? Do you think you've become more organized than you would have been had you not had to be so organized around Imogen's care?
Yeah, I think it's about creativity. Like even just
Yes.
stepping into this show right now, I had to go
Yeah.
and organise her feed, and you sort of juggle. And I would say to any carers out there in a similar situation, be it worse or less,
Yes.
I would say that you have skills and abilities that you don't realise, and it's about being creative. Now, I made
Absolutely.
a speech on the steps of Parliament in 2005, and I said
Yeah.
I've learnt to pirouette, you know, do all these sort of moves,
Yes.
backflips, handstands to work around her care. And I think that
Yes.
anybody out there maybe is suffering stress, and maybe you
Mhm.
think that it's hard, but you would have developed skills that you don't realize that you have. All those pirouettes, backflips,
Yes.
handstands that you do when you're caring for a child with disabilities. So, you know, give yourself a break, find ways to
Yes.
delegate, take small steps. It's not easy to let somebody else look after your child. I get that.
No.
Take small steps, but believe
Mm.
me, you would have developed support systems like, you'd be able to land a rocket pinpoint on the moon.
Yeah, yeah. And the point of all this is that you didn't have that knowledge. If we think about you getting into council, working in council, managing a child with a disability, you didn't have any of those skills before this come along. You just learnt them as you went. And part of why Christine does what she does now in empowering women is to get them to understand that if you take things in bite-sized pieces, you can actually accomplish great things, can't you?
Yep, exactly. And accomplish what you can accomplish. Like
Yeah.
when I've been talking to women about grants, they want to change the whole world, but start in
Yes.
small steps. And if you're looking for a grant, if we're talking about grants, if you're looking for a grant,
Yes.
once you have those little runs on the board, you've made a change, but also
Yes.
you've got that credibility in what you've done already. So if you're applying for a grant, the government's looking for where have you been successful before. But the other thing that I
Yes.
should say is that as women, carers, or all women, we have gifts. We all have
Yes.
something special. And your program said at the start, every business has a story. And I think every woman
Uh-huh.
has a gift. We all have a gift.
Absolutely.
And it's a matter of identifying that gift and how we can use it.
Absolutely. And that's what drives you now, Christine, is helping women understand those unique gifts, their
Yeah.
unique perspectives, their unique passions, their unique drives, because no two people are the same. What drives me doesn't drive you. There may be similarities and synergies, but finding out what is individual to you is the most amazing point of clarity in your life.
Mm.
So if you're listening out there today and you've struggled trying to figure out where do I sit, where do I fit, what am I good at, then Christine can help you with that stuff because that's what she's passionate about, because that's what she's learnt, that's what she's good at, and she can help show you the way. So, Christine, um, also going back to your time in council, I'm wondering how difficult it was to get used to your particular council's culture, because each local council has, they're all different, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess there's not much to say with that because I've been
Yeah, yeah,
involved in advocating for a long time. And once I got
yes,
to council table, like I looked around at the other councillors, and they said, "Oh,
yes,
we feel like you've always been here," because I'd already been advocating. I was already talking to them. I was familiar
yes,
with them. But sitting around the table, once I got there, what did
yes,
surprise me is I thought that
uh-huh,
we're fairly gender equal. And oh yes,
yes,
a couple of counsellors, female counsellors, sure. Once I got to the table and I looked around and I went, oh, there's only three of us out of 11. That's what shocked me.
wow. We need to change that, don't we? We need
Maybe.
to
I think
have.
But there
I
was a
think that
time when there was a decision that came up, and I think we do need to be sitting at the table. I think that women are
yes,
a bit smarter than wanting to get into politics. I think, we should leave it to the guys. But
yeah,
there was a night when we were negotiating a motion about moving into and developing a section of land. And what surprised
yes,
me was us women lined up on another side to the men. And that's when I went, we need to be sitting at the table. So we were from different sides of
yes.
politics, but it wasn't the political divide, it was a gender divide.
No,
And the guys
yes,
are all, oh yeah, let's roll in, let's roll it over, yeah, we're gonna build a bigger and the women, all three of us were like, hang on, what about the people? What about the community?
mm,
And that's when I realized we need to be sitting at the table because guys just want
yes.
to be. I love guys, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, yeah, no, no.
it was interesting to see that the differences, and that's when I came to believe we need to be sitting at the table.
Absolutely. And I'm with you 100%. Men are brilliant and they do wonderful, amazing things, but the balance of the world needs both men and women, and particularly when we start talking about leadership and politics in particular, it's a woman's perspective that balances all
Mm.
that male energy and ego. So women must be sitting and in those conversations, they must be included to give the diversity that is part of good decision making. So
Absolutely.
even though there were only three of you in the council, Christine, did you find that you still were able to affect change and have that voice from a feminine perspective?
Absolutely. And I should say before I say too much more is that
Yeah.
previous to getting involved in politics, I'd been advocating, writing letters
Yes.
to politicians and councillors, and my thought is that it didn't make one iota of difference, but it made a hell of a lot of difference once I stood in the state election and once I actually get elected. So as much as we need women
Yeah.
sitting at the table, we also need carers, we need people with disabilities, we need that diversity, not just about
Yes.
gender, but we need that
Yes.
diversity because once I was sitting at the table, then I was able to bring my carer's voice or the voice of people with disabilities. And through that time, I was able to get a special school set up in Whittlesea. So once I got
Yes.
elected, the councillor said, you know about disability, anything that you think, bring it to the table. And that's the reason that I was
Yeah.
able to get that effected because I was sitting at the table. And so the councillors then
Yes.
looked at me as a peer, not like
Yes.
a voter or go away, but so absolutely
Yes.
need that voice at the table.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Christine, I wanted to talk about today the types of people that you work with. Who do you love to work with and who do you serve the most?
So the people that I love to work with are women who are action takers, who want to make a difference. So they're energetic and they know the
Mm.
value or they want to learn the value. They want to take the action.
Yes.
So women who are keen to build something and know that they need to take action. They know that they need advice. They know that that they can't do it on their own because
Yeah.
doing it on your own, you run into a lot of blocks or, you take this road or that road. And I think people, look, I've spoken to over 100 women about getting
Yeah.
grants, and they all have a passion. So that's why I called my group and my program Ignite Your Passion. So they have a
Yes.
passion, but they're not quite sure of the steps to take. And when it comes to
Yeah.
grants, it's about that passion. And it's
Yes.
never about the money, it's about the passion that you have to get that off the ground. And
Yes.
I'd love to see it. I've had women have great projects like, Indigenous Kitchen, domestic violence supports, disability cafes, things like that. And they're just not sure how to get it set up. So I want to see them get those projects off the ground because
Yeah.
everybody wins.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And do you think that there's lots of entrepreneurs out there that are passionate about their particular specialty, or that need help to get things off the ground, so to speak?
Absolutely. So they have a passion, but they're not sure of the steps to take. And when it comes to applying for a grant, it's about being clear about what your outcome is. So people, like
Mm.
I've had people come to me and they say, you know, take me for example, I'm a mother of two children, one with disabilities. What grants are out there for me? And I say it's not about
Yes.
you. It's about the change you're making in the world. So I think
Hmm.
if people can come from it from that angle rather than about
Yes.
you, it's about the change you're making for others. And that's a really difficult concept, I think, that people don't quite grasp. They need to figure out what the end point is. The other thing is that you need to write a budget. And people often go, "Oh, I don't know how much money I'm going to spend. How am I going to write a budget?" But that's something that I
Yeah.
can help them with.
Fantastic. So I just want to touch further on that. It's not about the money. It's about the change that you'll make in a world. So that's actually a wonderful concept to take into other areas of our life. And when you think about the change you want to create, it it makes a switch in the way that you look at things. So it becomes less about the money and more about, okay, so if I were to get this grant, that would mean I could employ someone, I could rent a space, I could, etc., etc., etc. So the ripple effect of what my purpose and vision is has a much greater effect, and that's where you wanna come from in terms of grant writing. Is that a correct, Christine?
Yes. So one of the questions that you asked me previously was, where do I go to look for grants? And I turn that on its
Yes,
head and I say,
yes,
think about what the outcome is, think about your budget, and then look for where you're going to find the money. Because
mm,
it mightn't be a government grant, it might be sponsorship, it might be that somebody
mm,
else will help you get that off the ground. But come from
mm,
firstly how much money you need and the change you're making in
yes,
the world. Then look. So there's no one place. There's no one place to find grants. There's no one place where you can just
yeah,
pull it off the shelf. There are government websites, but they're pretty, it's government, right?
yeah, yeah, I was gonna say they're a little tricky to try and find, but there's lots of other avenues for raising money, and so, Christine, what are some of those other avenues?
So in my Grants Made Easy course, little plug there,
Mhm.
I talk about I,
Yeah,
I talk
yeah,
about
sorry.
I talk about sponsorship and fundraising. So you know now we've been
Yes,
through COVID, there's
yeah,
other opportunities where you can set up a fundraising on a fundraising platform, and there's a lot of fundraising platforms. The other thing is if you do it online and you're using like GoFundMe, or there's Fundly is another one, or
yes,
Kickstarter is one that's used for businesses. Fundraising. I just saw somebody raise $180,000 through a Kickstarter campaign.
yes,
So if you need
yeah,
funding to get your business idea off the ground, Kickstarter is a good one. But the point is that you can take this worldwide. Last time I saw,
yes.
there's 80 billion, not million, $80 billion in grants in Australia. So if you're taking that worldwide, if you're
Wow.
going out to the whole world, there's $80 billion and more. And the other thing that I say is, we've just talked about the mission and the outcomes. I say give people a reason to give and make it easy
Yes,
for them to give, and they will give.
yes, yeah.
People generally want to help other people.
Yeah. Since I've been talking to you, it's caused me to think in a different way about funding for my business, which I find fascinating because you don't know what you don't know until you start talking to other people about different ways of doing things and different options for doing things, and it doesn't have to be the same old, same old. It can be, you know, generated in a multiple of different ways. So I didn't realize that there were $80 billion worth of funds available in Australia alone. So we are tiny. Like Australia is a tiny country. So what must be available in Europe or America, for instance? And it's just about finding what works with you. And so oftentimes with some of those platforms, you're not held back by the fact that you might live in Australia. So those Kickstarter and GoFundMe and Fundly, they're international, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. And Kickstarter, I've seen it used a number of times to set up great projects for businesses. So when it comes
Yes,
to government grants are mostly, when you talk about money, and it's mostly for not-for-profits. So if you're setting up a
yes,
business and when you're talking about covering wages and rental space, that sort of thing, then you want to be looking
yep,
at a Kickstarter campaign, something like that, because a
yeah,
government's usually funding something that's about not-for-profit,
yes,
disability, or disadvantaged, Indigenous, usually those
yep,
things. So if you're a business and you're looking for funds, then you should be looking at some sort of funding campaign. So you can use GoFundMe, but Kickstarter's been used a lot.
yeah. So in terms of, let's just have a quick talk about Kickstarter. In terms of business funds, what do you think is the key that people are looking for when they jump on Kickstarter and they want to fund something? What makes you and your idea stand out above the crowd, do you think?
I think I think that people like to help other people. So if you've got something there that's new, innovative, and people
Yeah,
can see that it's going to be of benefit, then
yeah.
they'll contribute. So, for example, the Kickstarter campaign that I just saw somebody get going was for a new baby bottle. So
Wow.
it was for a new kind of baby bottle. I've seen Kickstarter fund a development of a key ring, a special key ring to keep your keys
Yes.
flat. So it depends. As I say, give them a reason to give, and also make it
Mm.
easy for them to give. So with that, so this
Mm-hmm.
the orbital key, and they did a whole campaign where they, before they actually launched the product, where you could
Yeah.
have dinner with the founders, and people paid money for that. And for my own part, I'm planning to run and
Oh.
publish a carers book. And so
Yes.
I'm planning to launch that in March. So bring carers
Yes.
together, and I'll be looking for sponsorship,
Mhm.
and I'll be looking for those sorts of opportunities to sit down and have lunch with the carers. Maybe we might, well, I'd like to go and present it to our Prime Minister, say, look, this
Yes.
is carers' stories. So
Yes.
it's about thinking creatively.
Yeah. And most of the time, if you take a step back and think creatively, that will in itself encourage people to donate to your cause. In terms of Kickstarter, because I'm not familiar with it at all, the money that is given to the business, does it have to repaid rather, or how does that work?
So their donations, as far as, I haven't actually run a Kickstarter campaign myself, but no,
Yeah, yeah,
it depends on how you set up the campaign. So if people are contributing, so they might contribute sponsorship. So it might be that you say,
yes,
contribute to my Kickstarter campaign and you get advertising on my website. Or it might be that
yeah,
it's totally 100% contributing to the development of the product. So it depends, but as
yeah,
long as you're clear in when you're setting that up. So like I said, with the orbital key, some of the people had
yes,
sponsorship, but they sat down with the funders. When you're looking at something like GoFundMe, and there's other
yes,
platforms as well, there's another platform, I
mm,
can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a subscription. So every month
yes,
you pay, maybe you get 100 people to pay $1. So that's a
yes,
subscription. But with, for example, GoFundMe is the stock standard, general,
yes,
everybody uses GoFundMe. It can be used for business. It can be used for,
yes.
if you've got a sick cat, you need to raise
Yeah,
money
you
for
said, yeah,
that. GoFundMe can be used for anything. You see lots of different campaigns for, it might be helping somebody pay for their cancer treatment, or it might be,
Yeah.
helping, like I say, somebody might have a sick dog. So it depends
Yes.
on if people think it's a worthy cause and it's a way to give. So as far as I understand it, that's not money to be repaid. But,
Okay.
but all the platforms take a commission. Some might be
Oh,
1%,
yes.
might be 2%, and sometimes the commission comes from the grant money or the funding money, and
Yes.
sometimes there's an extra charge put on the people who are actually donating. So it just depends on the
Uh-huh.
platform. But I go through those
Yeah.
again. I go through a number of platforms
Yes.
and the pros and cons in the Grants Made Easy
Yes.
program. So I'm quite excited about fundraising platforms, because I think there's less strings attached and greater.
Yes. And the other thing, Christine, is that it causes us to start to really believe that there is an abundance of money in the world, and you should never be confined or held back by a lack of.
No,
That's the
exactly.
thing that strikes me, is that there is plenty of money. Obviously, because Kickstarter, GoFundMe, and Fundly are all platforms that generate large volumes of money for the projects that people support. So obviously, there is plenty of money. It may not at this stage of humanity be distributed evenly, but I think that's changing, don't you?
Um, well, I think that these platforms are international, and opportunity to
Yes.
get funds worldwide. I talked to somebody a while ago, and she was getting international grants, and she said they're easier to get, actually, because there's
Wow.
less people interested in international grants. So I mean, not that
Yes.
unless you're kind of doing that. But she was helping kids in different countries. So there is those opportunities. The other thing that I was going to say, with when it comes to creativity, I'm not sure
Yeah.
if your listeners might have seen, but again, I talk about it in the Grants Made Easy, and I can send you a
Yes.
picture. In terms of creativity, there's the Madeline and Alana Foundation. So that was set
Yes.
up out
Yes.
of
Yes.
very
Yes.
tragic circumstances, but they
Yes.
had
Very tragic.
a fundraising campaign where they had, was 8 or 6 fiberglass kangaroos at the chocolatieri
Yeah. Yeah.
in Yarra Glen, and you could go and you could vote
Mm-hmm.
and you could put coins in these kangaroos, and
Curious.
then after that they auctioned them off. They raised $600,000.
Yeah, like, that's amazing. Like,
So that went to
completely amazing.
help children, who are suffering bullying and those sorts of things. But that's an example of the creative. I love creativity.
Yes, yes, yes. Creativity is something that we need to encourage more in adults. We tend to lose our imagination and creativity as we age. However, it's never completely lost. And if you start to tap back into that imagination and creativity, amazing things happen, don't they?
That's right. So, everybody likes their chocolate. So they had these kangaroos at the chocolatier. I think that's just amazing. And everybody was
Yeah, yeah.
tapping into that. So, what creative things can your listeners think of, in terms of fundraising? Very Special Kids runs a fashion parade. People donate fashion clothes,
Yes,
and then they sell them off, so that, and I think, like I said, there's, if you tap into creativity, grants have strings attached.
yes,
Grants say you
yes.
can use it on Mondays and Wednesdays, but not on Fridays. You know, they
Yeah,
have all these boxes that you have to tick, and it mightn't fit what you want to fundraise for, or what you want the funds for.
yeah.
So look at Fundly or Kickstarter. Those sorts of things. That the opportunity. I just love, the opportunities.
Yes, yes, I'm getting that excitement, and I'm so glad that we have the chance to talk every week, because I never thought outside the square of a traditional business loan to get the things done that you want to do within a business. And subsequent weeks of talking to you again and again, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could do blah, 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 blah to do blah, 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 because there's a bigger mission behind everything that I do and everything that I want to do. So it encourages me to start thinking outside that square of what is normal and what is possible. And as we said before, there is truly an abundance of money out there,
There is.
enough money for everyone. You just need to be creative in the way that you ask for it, essentially, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Look, maybe we should have a conversation, Toni, off air, and see how creative and how you can go about getting that. And maybe what I'd like to offer today is the first 5 people. I don't do it for free anymore. I don't do
No.
um, grants consultations for free, because people that I've talked to, they get $10,000 in grants. Like, they get those.
Yes.
They get the ideas and they get the framework and they can map it out. But today, and only for your listeners, I will offer the first 5 people who respond, and I'll send you the Calendly link. The first 5 people
Yes.
a half-hour consultation for free. So if they've got an idea or a passion, something like that, but only the first 5, and only if they come through you. How about that?
Fantastic. So, people, if you're listening, and Payo's online now as well, the first 5 people, Christine will provide us with a link to connect you with her for a one-on-one consultation around your particular grant or idea that you need funding for. That's an amazing offer, people. Like,
Yeah,
this woman
I usually charge 100.
knows. Exactly.
So I do it
Exactly.
for
So first 5 people listening today to Radio Toni Everyday Business want to catch up with Christine on a one-on-one consult. First 5 people are free, and we will send you a calendar link. Payo will make a note of your name and your email, and then Christine and I will make sure that you get the Calendly link to link with her. So that's only today. We're offering that. Now, Christine, I wanted quickly, before we run out of time, which we just seem to quickly run out of time every week when we get chatting, I just want to quickly you to talk about your course that you released last week that you're so passionate about.
Yeah, so Ignite Your Passion. Last night I ran a webinar and it was so much. I loved it. I love helping people have those light bulb
Yes,
moments go off.
bold
So
moment. Yep.
I'll be running the webinar again this Thursday night at 8 p.m. Australian Daylight
Yep.
Savings Time. I can send you the link for
Yep.
that. So, and
Yes,
that's
please.
that's about overcoming your limiting beliefs and getting to where you want to get to. So it's about getting out
Yes.
of your headspace and getting that business going. So where the grants
Yes.
made it easy about finding the grants, this is about actually taking the steps and seeing where you want to get to and getting your business going.
Yes.
So
And
that's Thursday.
we're, if not now, when? Like, when are you going to do that? When are you going to take that step?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not now?
There's always going to be,
2021,
let's do it. There's always going to be things that get in your way. So let's just, the mindset processes that I've been doing with William Whitecloud and Chris Duncan are just amazing. They've just got me to take those steps to get to where I need to get to. And it's about tapping into your intuition. And
yes.
otherwise we sit back and go, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that because I haven't got any money, I haven't got
I'm
any
too
time.
scared.
Too scared.
I'm
I'm
too scared.
I don't feel worthy.
Exactly.
All those things.
Exactly. So I have to, like, I've got a personal experience with this whole idea that I'm not worthy, because I get it a lot. I'll have people come to me and say, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to talk to a worldwide audience. But the thing is that it's not about you. It's about your message.
Yeah.
And your message is important, and people can only hear your message from you. They can't hear it from me. They can't hear it from Christine. And that's why I passionately support businesses in jumping on live streaming, jumping onto media, and getting their message out there, because there'll be someone listening who's been sitting in the background thinking, oh my God, I'd love to do XYZ. I don't know where to start. They're listening. They hear Christine talk. They see her passion in the way that she talks, because that's the thing that you can't hide on live stream, is the passion that you feel about what you do. So listeners, you'll agree with me today that you can clearly see that Christine is incredibly passionate about helping people with grants, getting clarity, helping their mindset. And it is just mindset. The difference between me and you, or the difference between Christine and you, is just mindset. It's just here, isn't it, Christine?
Yeah, and just think about the people that you can help. If you step outside of that, the people that you can help, like, it's just, that's mind blowing. You're not helping them if
Yes,
you're playing small, but if you can step out
yes.
there, however we can accommodate that, just going to help that one person. You might say one person for one day, and that's, it made a difference to their world.
Absolutely. And you don't know what that one person you helped will create or go on to be. So I know this stuff intimately, because 2 years ago, when I published my book, I was too scared to get on a phone call with someone I didn't know. And now I live stream on radio to hundreds of thousands of people that I don't know, because I made it not about me, it's about the message. And if
Yeah,
I, as a middle aged, imperfect woman, can get up and live stream most days of the week, damn, you guys have got no excuse.
yeah.
Yeah?
If I'm
No
a
excuse at
if I'm
all.
if I'm a full-time carer for Imogen who needs 24/7
Absolutely.
care, then I think there's very little excuse for others.
So, and I guess that's the purpose behind both what Christine and I do, is that we don't have easy lives. It's not easy to get up, to plan shows, to jump on live, to when you're not feeling well or you've had a sleepless night, or in Christine's case, she might have had a really rough day with Imogen. She still gets up, shows up, and tries to make a difference. And that's how we change the world.
Yeah.
One person
Honest.
getting up, creating action, that changes the world. And wouldn't we all want to have a different world for our kids and our grandkids?
Yeah.
Like,
And
don't
it could
we
be
all want to
one little
share in
one
that
little step.
abundance?
Yeah. Yeah, the world is abundant. And something that changed my life was listening to Chris Howard, and he said there's all this money out
Yes.
there. You just need a way to plug into it. You just need to
Yep.
find a way. And that's what I'm saying with grants. Find a reason and make it easy to give.
Exactly. And again, it comes back to Christine's new program, which will help you. Like, sometimes you just need a helping hand. And I know from when I started in business, I have always had helping hands. I've always had people to coach me, help me, teach me. It's the only way that I increased doing what I was doing and increase being more active and visible online and in business. The only way is to get some help. And I tell you what, from an introverted, quiet person to what I'm able to do now, the change is phenomenal. And that's essentially only in 2 years. So 2 years ago, I wrote
Wow.
a book,
Wow.
just 2 years ago. So, uh, and I don't say that to say that I'm any better than anyone else. I just know that if you change the way that you think, you can change your life. And you do need help, and there
Mm.
are amazing people out there that will help you. So, again, if you've got an idea, if you want to be in business, if you think you want to change the world with this tiny little idea that you have, then Christine's got five free one-on-one consults today, but you have to make sure you let us know. Either email myself or Christine and put Radio Toni in the headline. So Christine is Christine at christinestow.com.au. I am info@radiotoni.com. info@radiotoni.com. Put Radio Toni in the headline dash Christine, and I will connect you with Christine for those one-on-one calls that might help you change an idea or a dream into a reality in 2021.
Let's go.
There's no time to waste, is there, Christine?
No, there's
Why
not.
not get started now?
Yeah, you don't know who's waiting out there for what you have to offer.
Yeah, you don't know who's listening. You don't know if there's someone across the planet who's just been waiting for you and your idea. They've got money to invest, they've got help to assist. They just need the right thing, and your particular idea is their right thing. So you
Yeah,
don't know when you. Sorry,
I'd love to
Christine.
get I'd love to get people started on Kickstarter. I mean, when I saw 160,000 or 180,000 just from, one subscription, that's just amazing, so you can do
Isn't
it.
it?
Mm.
Yes. I must say I'm pretty excited to jump on and have a bit. I've had a bit of a look around Kickstarter and then thought, oh, not sure. See, even even I get that. Oh, I'm not sure. But now that I've talked to Christine, I'm like, oh, I think I'll go back and have another look from Christine's perspective. And that's what happens when you start hanging out with amazing people. You
Yeah,
start to see things from a different perspective. And that different perspective makes all the difference, doesn't it, Christine?
exactly. It certainly does. Think creative.
So we and, and creative imagination. So there's endless money, endless ideas, and the difference is always you and your unique abilities. No one is the same, are they, Christine?
No, they're
Everyone
not.
is unique in the way that they present things, the way that they talk, the way that they interact. No one can duplicate you.
No.
I think people think that, oh, that's ideas the same as such and such as idea. The difference between those two ideas is you,
It
and the
might be this.
only difference.
It might be the same idea, but they're not going to hear it from them. They'll hear it from you. They'll hear it from who they need to hear it
Correct.
from. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And it's one of the themes that I say all the time. Everyone has a story, everyone has a message, but the people who need to hear that message can only hear it from you. They
Exactly.
can't hear it from Christine. They can't
Mm.
hear it from Joe Bloggs. They need to hear it from you. So
Mm.
if you're encouraged by listening to Christine and I today, again, I encourage you to just jump on and reach out. Both of us are only too happy to help you in any way that we can. And particularly, Christine is just waiting to get you started on that idea or give you some clarity or pointers
Mm.
on where you need to go and what you need to do.
Exactly.
And on that note, before we run out of time, I just want to finally close by talking about that imposter syndrome that we have across Australia. So, our tall poppy syndrome in Australia often stops us from rising to where we need to go. Christine, what have you experienced that stops people from around that tall poppy syndrome that we have in Australia that Americans are not so familiar with, but Australians, we know it all too well.
So Americans are different, aren't they? They're a bit more. Let's make this happen. But I've so many
Yes,
women that I've spoken to. They say, "Oh, but nobody will want my products." That's not true. Somebody will.
it's not true. Somebody
Imposter.
will.
I'm not good enough. Don't have the money. Don't have enough time. You don't need money, and you just make it happen.
You
The
do.
time will still go by, so you might as well be doing, what you need to do. The imposter syndrome holds a lot of people back, so it doesn't serve you. Throw it
It does.
away.
Yes, throw it away. The other thing that I come across too, Christine, is what will my family think, or what will someone else think? And I keep quickly remind them that it's none of your business what other people think. You do you. End of day. Yeah,
Yeah,
you do you.
yeah. But our
And what
family, our friends like to keep us small because they like to keep us where we know. So when you
where
kind of
they
break,
can
and I actually changed the people that I was spending time with. Like I
agreed.
decided that I wasn't going to stay in this being a carer for me. I decided that I was going to find new people to spend time with. I joined a
Yep.
political party and I got elected to council. So it's a good idea to
Yep.
look at the people you surround yourself with.
And on that note, that is a really good point to stop the show today. Christine, thank you so much. It's just a pure joy to talk to you every week. And yes, next week, I too will be sad to not join you live on air. Just a quick reminder, reach out, connect with Christine or I if you're interested. We will get you a calendar link and set you up with Christine. First 5 people only. If you want information about the Grants Made Easy course, please reach out and we'll get those details to you as soon as possible. And on that note, Christine, thank you so much for your time today. Wonderful people listening live online, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining into Radio Toni Everyday Business with Christine today. We will be back next week, and I look forward to joining you all then. Bye for now.